Yo, what up guys? This is your boy, Jovan, Coach Jovan, whatever you want to call me. We're here again with another episode of Weightroom Overtime. And everything's going good, in case you guys are wondering. And just wanted to say thank you for everybody that's been watching my videos. It is just a start, and we got to start somewhere, right? Just like anything else. There's some good content and good stuff I'm going to put out, or keep putting out for you guys. Hopefully you guys kind of comprehend a little bit into what I'm saying, and also see if you guys can start applying this to your current, training methods, strength training methods, or if you're an athlete, this particular video might be important for you guys, just because of the nature of, athletic performance and stuff like that. But thank you again for everybody watching. If you're new, you might as well start subscribing. One day I'll make it, hopefully, and I want to give a shout out to people who followed me from the beginning. So without further ado, just wanted to get straight to the video here. I know I like to make these kind of semi-short, that way you guys, go on your day or whatever it may be. But today's topic is core training, right? Specifically, implementing core training methods into your current training program, no matter what age or, experience in the gym you have, or level of athleticism that you may have as well. So if you're an athlete, core stability, core training, your trunk muscles, those are all going to play a role when it comes to strength. If you don't believe me, I'm curious to see what you're currently doing to, put up numbers. If you're putting up numbers on the squat rack or whatever it may be, deadlifts, there has to be some sort of, strength when it comes to your core to be able to keep you upright and posture upright when you're lifting that much weight. So I'm curious to see if you don't train. I know there's a big controversy out there right now through, I wouldn't say social media, but fitness people out there that are more like the gym gurus and not really people that follow the science behind exercise, but something that may work for them. So for example, you hear a lot of people saying, you don't need to have core training sessions or implement any core training to my weightlifting sessions today because it's being taken care of by heavy squats and heavy deadlifts. That's not the case. And you can't tell that to a 12-year-old or a 15-year-old that's barely starting to lift, hey, ignore your core, you're gonna get it over time. That's kind of stupid if you think that way. So a lot of the times you guys should kind of do a little bit more research. If you're into fitness or into exercise, it's always good to know. But why is core important, right? What's the function of the core? What does it do? Why is it so important, Jovan? Well, there's a couple things. First and foremost, the core, specifically the core, it has a couple different things when it comes to stability and also being able to produce, force also. So for example, when you have a weak core, and you may notice this if you're an athlete or done this and experienced it yourself. So when you're doing a front squat, this is the best example I like to give. If you're doing a front squat, obviously the weight's in the front, right? A lot of that weight's gonna be, hopefully going straight up and down, but a lot of times that isn't the case. If your core is weak, a lot of the times you'll see a rounded back and start kind of squatting forward because you don't have the stability in your trunk, which is, your pelvis, your lumbar spine, and also those core muscles that help you keep upright, right? So that's why, in a nutshell, it's kind of important to have that core stability early on, and every day, even as you train, as you go up in weight, obviously it's gonna need to be stronger, right? So for me, think about it that way, right? When you're doing a front squat, if you do a front squat, or if you do dumbbells or kettlebells and you try to squat here and you end up falling, that is because you have a weak core a lot of the times. You don't have a strong pelvic foundation, and also your abdomen is not where it's supposed to be when it comes to the strength or stability of it, okay? So comment and let me know in the comments if you guys have experienced that before or currently experiencing that, where you tend to fall a little bit forward. A lot of times it could mean a lot of things. It could be like your weak glutes, anything like that, but a lot of it has to come from the core as well. So couple things I want to just mention right off the bat for core stability. The progress development of core is key for successful strength conditioning training program. Okay, so what that means is, as you begin training, we always implement core training, whether that's at the beginning during the warm-up phase or during rest times when, for example, let's say you're partnered up with somebody in the gym, if you're an athletic, if you're in a team, right? Or you just train with somebody at the gym. If somebody's squatting, the other person could be, doing some sort of, V-ups. They can be planks. It can be and like a side plank, anything specific, anything like that, that's how you can incorporate it, right? So from a strength and conditioning standpoint, from the coaching standpoint, we try to implement core training exercise about 5 times a week, depending on what phase and level of training the athlete may have as well. Could vary, but ideally we always incorporate core training just for, again, the stability and strength movements of particular sports as well. We'll get into that, but the development of the core, a lot of it comes from your pelvis, your hips, your abdomen helps build strength and stability, like I mentioned earlier. But understanding the core structure is also could be kind of helpful. A lot of times when you hear these terms, a lot of it is also known as a lumbopelvic hip complex. So essentially this whole area of your trunk is kind of what it refers to. So if you ever talk to any exercise person or personal trainer or anything like that, you could always get kind of like the philosophy and what they think. But if you ask somebody that you may follow on Instagram or YouTube or whatever, a lot of times if they're just people that got in good shape, they don't necessarily know the back science of certain things. So just kind of be careful on that kind of stuff. Not saying they're not fit or anything like that. I'm just saying sometimes they don't understand how to explain it or why it's important. Okay, especially when somebody new to exercise, it tends to kind of be thrown off or misguided in a sense as well. But the core, right? What's the structure of it? So it's connected by a lot of obviously, I would want to say slow twitch muscle fibers, type 1, if you're familiar with that term. So it's a lot of not fast twitch. So what I mean, it's not an explosive muscle, right? It's going to be a longevity muscle where you can work it out for longer, kind of like if you're cycling, right? You're going to cycle for a long time. Your core works the same way. That's why you need to train it a lot and do a lot of reps a lot of the times too. And also when you do planks, you want to hold it as long as you can, because that's the type of muscle fibers that are in the abdomen area. But it's also full of connective tissue as well. So it plays a major role by connecting your legs to your spine, to your upper body. So think about it that way. There's a lot of moving parts down there and a lot of things that help protect your internal organs as well. So that's also why it could be important for you. But also the stability aspect of it. So since it's made a lot of type 1 muscle fibers, it acts as a stabilizer to protect your spine as well. So that's pretty important when it comes to kind of understanding the function of the core. And let me know in the comments, guys, when you started lifting. I know some people do core. I've heard a lot of new clients that I have and new athletes where they do it here or there. They have a core day, maybe even like a recovery active day where they do some sit-ups or whatever it may be. I'm just kind of curious in the comments, when you started lifting or started playing a sport. I know there's some sports that might do it more than others, but what does your core training program or routine look like throughout maybe a weekly basis? How much time you're doing it and how often, and usually what kind of exercises are your favorite? And I'm also going to give you guys some examples of the kind of movements you kind of should be doing when it comes to core as well, to kind of keep in mind, not necessarily specific exercises, but the way of thinking of doing things as well could play a major role. Okay. And then so again, the core stability is going to help limit the body's ability to generate the force. So again, in a squat, the stronger core you have, depending on your how much time you've been lifting as well, and how you breathe and how you hold in your breath, kind of like the Valsalva maneuver, depending on how well versed you are in exercise. But that can also help put up some more numbers if you needed to, or generate more force from your core upright, right? So the last thing I kind of wanted to mention to you guys was from the training standpoint, different training variables that you may want to consider when you're going to add some more core stability or core stabilizing exercises to your routine or your current training program. For that matter, for all your athletes out there, I do recommend adding it every day if you can, even if it's just a couple 5 to 10 minutes of just core by itself too. Okay. So some of the training concepts that I want to kind of introduce to you guys are, there's 4 that I would recommend to you guys now. And feel free to send me a message or comment down there if you don't really understand kind of what I'm talking about, or have specific questions in regards to specific core exercises and stuff like that. But I'm just going to give you an overall thought of a couple of things they may want to consider. Okay, so the first one is open close chain exercises, right? This helps isolate muscle groups, specifically in the abdominal area. For example, leg raises, right? They're pretty tough if you're newer to your core or your core's weak. A lot of the times I wouldn't jump straight into leg raises. Like if you're hanging on a pull-up bar like I have here and you do a leg raise, you see a lot like in CrossFit and stuff like that. Those are ideal too, or you could just lay on the ground and do it that way as well. You're gonna notice it's a little bit tough if you have the weaker abdomen area. So I would recommend starting with something more different, and I'll get to it here soon. But also Superman's is a good one. You could also do Superman's. The next topic I would like to introduce to you is the multiple plane, doing it in multiple planes of motion. So what I mean by that is we have the frontal plane, we have the sagittal plane, and the transverse plane, right? If you don't know what that means, just let me know in the comments. I'll kind of explain it. I don't want to get too in the weeds of it, but it's just basically moving side to side, front and back, up and down, backwards, right? So there's different ways that you can kind of maneuver that. And the reason I like to introduce that, because when you're playing a sport specifically, right? So let's say football, let's say basketball, let's play soccer, right? You're gonna move in all areas, right? So if you just train, kind of forward in the frontal direction, you're not gonna get that mobility when, somebody is cutting on you. You need to, backpedal, you need to change directions, right? You see what I'm getting at? So you wanna be able to train your core the same way, even if you're twisting. So think about when you're batting, if you're a baseball player, a lot of that force or generation comes from the core and the hip area to be able to produce that stronger swing, right? Same thing for basketball. If you're gonna push pass, right? Could be an ideal. Soccer, there's a lot of instability too if you have a weak core, and I noticed this myself, or I know some people here that may watch and play soccer. When you're shooting or in the act of shooting to goal, right, or doing a long pass where you have that long wind up and you're on one foot ideally, right, or you're trying to hit it in the air and somebody bumps you, that stability sometimes too, if you don't have a strong, I would say, leg and core, you're gonna fall, right? A lot of the times. Or when you're shooting and the defender has you on your side and they just shove you right before you're gonna shoot, you'll notice that stability is not there. So that's why it's important to train in these different directions to be able to mimic those movements later on in the field, right? So that's kind of my idea behind that. And the next one would be loaded and unloaded conditions, right? So what this means is being able to keep your body upright by having a heavy load, or not heavy load, semi-heavy. So this could include farmer carries, if you guys are familiar with those. You can also do with kettlebells or dumbbells. This is where you're holding the dumbbell and then walking probably 10 to 15 yards, depending how long you can do it, and back, right? So that weight or instability of weight in your arms while you're walking, your core is gonna brace while you're doing that because it is heavy, right? And so your body's gonna keep working and recruiting those muscles in the abdomen area to be able to, keep upright and not fall down, right? So that's why that's important. Specifically if you're a football player, a lot of times when you do have a lot of people on your back or just have somebody on your back, you want to be able to push for more yards, right? So again, everything has a purpose and everything has a reason for it to translate to the field if you're an athlete, for example, right? Next one is stable and unstable conditions. This is my favorite. This is usually where I start all my athletes or even my new clients that are not familiar with exercise or, are familiar but never really been through an actual training program. Maybe they just do kind of whatever they want. Followed it for a little training program for a little bit, and right now they just go in there and do whatever they want, right, or whatever they feel like training that day. The stable and unstable conditions is a great way to start new people, a great way to start if you're overweight. It's a great way to start too if you're weak also. So it kind of serves everybody, to be honest. Even myself, I still do it myself today, and I'm not the most expertise or most athletic athlete out there, but I've been training for years and I still do stability today. And the reason I enjoy it and the reason I recommend it to my athletes is because when you are in a unstable condition, so for example, if you're on a Bozo ball, right, or a balance board, for example, right, that's kind of, in a sense, your body doesn't want to fall, right? You're in that mindset of like, oh, I got to keep myself upright, right? Same thing with your core a little bit too. So when your core feels unstable and you're balancing on something, right, trying not to fall, it's going to recruit every muscle that it could in that general area to keep you upright. So everything through your back, everything's going to be braced, and so is your core. It's going to be really tight. I don't know if you ever tried it and somebody kind of touches your stomach, it's going to be pretty tight. So that's the whole purpose. I like to introducing that. Once you can hold it for a certain amount of time, once you start progressing through that, there's different things you can do, obviously, which you can reach out to me if you have those questions. But that's what I would start anybody that might be new or overweight or kind of weak in that area, is always do the unstable things first. Even with the PVC pipe could be a good one too, where you're coming up and down to help stabilize you as you come up and stuff like that. So Obviously, it's just for a postural control. So for the next one is the unilateral and bilateral work. This is pretty interesting because it's proven to be shown greater activation of core musculature, right? So the best way to put this for you guys is, so when you do an exercise, right, for example, a split squat or a lunge, right? Your body, when you have a weight in your arm, right? Let's just say you have one dumbbell, a 20 pound dumbbell, and you do a lunge, right? And now you're gonna press. Well, hey, something on the other side is unstable. The weight's over your head, and the other side is not as braced as one side, so it's gonna recruit a little bit those muscles in that weaker area to be able to keep upright, or else you're gonna be falling, right? So you kind of get the purpose. You're not gonna lift the weight and just fall sideways. When you lift up the weight, the rest of your core is working as well without any load, right? So it's gonna start recruiting those muscles on that weaker side to be able to stabilize the area that's not strong, right? So if that kind of helps make sense in your head, like, okay, I kind of know what it means. There's different exercises you can do to help with bilateral or unilateral, movements. So that's just probably one of the best examples I can put. But you can also do a side lunge, right? You can do a reverse lunge. You can do a step to box press, right? That's all gonna work your core, and it's all great. And usually that's a progression from the unstable conditions used to the bilateral or unilateral, movement. But yeah, as you can see, I'm pretty, I like to talk about this kind of stuff. I think it's fascinating to me, the way exercise works and how your body works. There's a whole science behind it, right? It's not just, hey, why is Joanne talking about this, right? I just want to help out as much people as I can. I know there's a lot of misguided information out there. Every day I see it. I see it in the social medias, and I'm sure you guys see it too. You see a bunch of nonsense out there, but hey, that's why I'm here, right? But just want to say thank you again. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Weight Room Overtime. I'm excited for the future. I know there'll be a lot of things coming, but don't forget to comment, subscribe, like. Let me know in the comments what you guys want to, talk about next, whether that's strength, whether that's running, whether that's jumping, whether that's whatever. Just let me know in the comments from an exercise standpoint or, sport specific standpoint. Let me know what you guys want to talk about, and I'll make a video. Until then, peace out, take care, wash your hands, and better start lifting. Peace out, guys.